Star Trek Lower Decks review, the Strange New Worlds crossover. Those old scientists.
So would this be like season 3 or whatever, 2 of Lower Decks, or it just is like its own category?
It's its own category, I
It's a
think.
Strange New
kind of
Worlds
like,
episode.
yeah, it's a Strange New Worlds episode, but it's kind of like a Christmas special type thing where, it's not actually pertaining to a season of Lower Decks.
Yeah, it comes between seasons. Because this was a while ago, and then we're just recently we had, was it, I forget what season we're on. Was it 4?
We're starting 4, yeah.
Yeah. So this is sort of 3.5, but not really, because it's in Strange New Worlds.
Hey, it's Star Trek's version of season 3B. Although, in Doctor Who it was 6B, but still.
Yeah, it exists as a thing.
Okay.
And the great thing about doing this sort of time travel episode is you have, it's like, you might not, you'd make your reports, but you might not say everything that went down or something. Just sort of, yeah, no.
Yeah, you keep a few things.
And honestly, with like the recap they did, I didn't really feel like I was missing important information that I needed to know to understand the episode. It's like, okay, so Spock and her had a thing together or whatever, blah blah blah.
Well, yeah, that's why the recap is so important sometimes.
Yeah, especially if you're jumping series like that. And
so it's like, okay.
But there's still little things in there, like I was talking about before we stream, the reference to the Bell riots.
Yeah, that was a reference to DS9, not Strange New Worlds, which is why they're like, do you have a few? If you notice that their conversation is very specific, is oddly specific.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they're like, both of these series are like, Lower Decks especially, like, anybody can get into it and enjoy it, but it's the series where they just get to jam as many references as they can into it, because they know they can get away with it, because the people watching this particular one know this is where we're going to reference a frick ton of background stuff. And if you if you like that sort of thing, you're going to like this show. And so
yeah, that's the thing about Lower Decks, is really reference heavy.
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds isn't so reference heavy. It's more, a little more self-contained.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the Lower Decks crossover bit, they were able to add those references. I love he has a poster of you on his bunk. It's not a pinup poster, is it?
Pinned
well,
up.
It's pinned up, if that's what you mean.
But
now, what I'm curious of, what was I going to say? Fuck. Oh, so it's like Stranger Worlds. Is it like a revamp of the whole series?
No,
or
it's
it's a
so you see the pilot episode of the original series, TOS, or Those Old Scientists, which I love that little fourth wall break, that little fourth wall nudge there with the TOS thing. They had a few fourth wall nudges here, like where they're just like teasing the fact that, yeah, we know. the little fan service nudges that aren't really breaking the fourth wall, but are like, yeah, you know
They're
what?
scratching it.
They're just leaning on the fourth wall a little too hard, and it's like, uh-oh. But in the original series, the pilot episode was it still had Spock and Uhura, but the first officer was number one. They never really gave her a name. Played, might I add, by Majel Barrett.
Ooh, no idea who that is, but cool.
Luoxana Troy, the voice of the computer. She's Roddenberry's wife. Although at the time she was his mistress, which is why they didn't the higher ups didn't go for it. They're like, we're cool with a woman being first officer, but not that woman. Because he was married to someone else at the time and she was his mistress, and they didn't like the optics of that.
Ooh, naughty boy, naughty boy.
So that's why she came in a bit later on as Nurse Chapel. But still had Spock, still had Uhura, and they had Christopher Pike instead of Captain Kirk. And when they're like, that's a cool series, but they make a few tweaks here and there between the pilot and the first episode.
Yeah, fair enough.
So they recast the captain and they recast the first officer and decided to just get rid of the woman because Roddenberry's like, no, it's this woman or no woman. And it's like, okay, no woman. We'll make the alien the first officer. So so this is sort of what takes place between that between the pilot episode and the first episode of Star Trek, the original.
Okay.
Basically adding additional canon material and to the pilot.
It's just a season pilot B, series pilot B.
Okay,
that makes sense. Before I forget, just stick this in here.
Yeah.
The Bell Riots happened in September of 2024. So.
Oh
shit.
Yeah. So
we're coming up to that, aren't we?
Yeah.
Actually, considering the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised.
So what are the Bell Riots exactly?
So in the in the DS9 episode, they ended up sent back in time, and they had basically slums, but
I just watched a video on the Bell Riot, so I can give a better things. I just watched a Lore Reloaded thing on it. Basically, it was it's 2024. There's people who there's social needs, so they create these pinned in areas where they send people who have who have need and for housing and food and that sort of thing. And they
Madrock, are you familiar with Hooverville in New York City during the Great Depression?
Yeah.
Okay, it's basically that, but on a large scale, where they turn off entire sections of cities for that. And so the apartments are all just free-for-alls. And it's all like...
And it's massively underfunded. Everybody's, all the people who are supposed to help are all burnt out from overwork because there's just not enough funding and not enough people to take care of all these people. And then nothing went as it was supposed to do. And people were all pinned into these areas. And so because of that, they basically take hostages and show there's a riot and hostages and whatnot, and they basically get their message out to the world that, all those places, those areas that they told you were going to be nice and helpful for the people who need it. Yeah, they're not really doing anything because they're massively underfunded. They're not working the way that they were supposed. They were sold to you. So yeah, you might think, oh no, great, there's that problem's taken care of. It's not, because these things actually don't work the way that they were promised and the way you think they work.
Oh
And
Yeah,
shit.
that's what
it's more
started the
just
Bell riots.
it's like, oh, we don't have to worry about these homeless people
They're being taken
because
care of.
we gave them a little their own little city. They can have that, and we don't have to get them jobs. We don't have to, you know.
Yep.
And the way I watched it recently too, but and the way they described it, they like categorized people because, social services, they have like little phrases for things. So
Yeah.
one of them was it's like, I don't remember what the special needs one, like the
Was it DIMS or
low
something like that?
dims. I think it was dims or something, or the gimmies. And it's like, oh, you're a gimme because you're not dim, so you're a gimme. And it's like, a gimme? Yeah, somebody who comes in just looking for a handout because they lost their job, which just it can be really hard to get a job, especially in situations like that where you don't have anywhere to go, because it's kind
Yeah.
of hard to have
True.
an address. If you don't have an address, it's kind of hard to, fill that out in a thing and actually get a job without an address.
True.
So it causes a severe cycle of poverty, and a lot of these people there, they had families, they had and then some of them were basically became gang types, where it's like they were stealing from everybody else and like killing for their food cards, basically like food stamps
Yeah.
and stuff. And so, because you had like a little card that got you like a meal a day or something, and the meals were so tiny and like
Honestly, I could
basically
see something
nothing.
like that happening in 2024.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
But
It's
the whole
kind
reason
of
this encapsulated is like sent back in time to San Francisco. That's where it ties back to the episode. She has a specific reference of being sent back in time to San Francisco. I
yeah.
assume that's what they're going
That
for.
is.
There might have
That
been a
is.
TOS episode or two that went to San Francisco.
No,
No,
but no, but
I
an
wouldn't be
earlier
surprised.
episode, an earlier. Well, wait, no, there was. Was it San Francisco? There was. I don't remember. It was either San Francisco or Los Angeles, but there was a TOS episode as well
Yeah, I had a vague
where
memory of something like that.
but that wasn't a riot. They went back during Nazi to and they went back because of another arch, and that was more um to let this girl die, be this sweet woman who Kirk had fallen in love with,
Oh.
but but he had to let her die because she advocated for peace. But at the time, it was, they were just about to start World War II, or they were in the midst of World War II or whatever, and her actually living would cause a pacifist movement, which would um cause the Nazis to win World War II.
Ah, that's why that one lady said no attachments.
No, that's because La'an ended up falling in love with a Kirk from an alternate reality.
Ah, Okay.
because she ended up accidentally um getting not accidentally, but somebody from the future or some time agency sent her back in time to stop something from happening, but she ended up accidentally on his Enterprise because, in on her way back, she ended up transferring to that Enterprise because the past was being changed. And so she had to go back in time, stop the past from being changed. Kirk ended up going with her, and she fell for him during their little trip. And that's why she's like, no falling in love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it hurts.
Yeah. It very much again, this episode has a lot of, it's got some little bits and pieces here, like I mean, we're kind of jumping around here, but talking about the NX-01 and how like that's some new lore that was not a thing before. The whole, you put the previous a part of the previous ship that bore the name
But it
into.
does make
Oh, it makes
sense.
sense. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just new lore, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with new lore that doesn't contradict the old lore. That's fine, unless
Yeah.
it's like the old lore is so sloppy that you could say anything and it would make sense.
True.
You're straightening it out. A bit of a,
Yeah.
Moffat straightening out the timeline for 11 and then Chibnall throwing that all in the garbage. But
Yeah.
You just can't let it go, can you?
but yeah, it's, unless it's straightening things out, which granted, TOS has a lot of problems in terms of it was the first one. They hadn't thought everything through to the nth degree, so yeah, they're gonna say some things that don't make sense if with later time when you've had time to think it through and pick out okay, this is how we're gonna do this is how we're gonna do that. Like, yeah, there's lots of little things that they hadn't quite thought through, and so a lot of later series kind of take TOS and keep the broader strokes, but then sort of fix the lore so that it makes sense.
Yeah.
But they've had a
Yeah.
lot more time to work on the lore since then, so everything is straighter once they've kind of smoothed it out. But as you
Yeah.
go on, the lore gets more consistent, so everything is sort of
The
more
lore.
beholden to the lore. Or you can go to an alternate, do an alternate universe, and then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
Hence,
like the Calvin timeline.
yeah, the Kelvin timeline, the JJ verse. Yeah, once you went over to you left the Prime timeline, you can do whatever you want over there. Cause yeah, whatever, I don't care. But yeah, that's over there. That's on its own thing. You're not messing with the Prime timeline. But
Don't mess with the Prime Directive
that's a different thing.
that we break all the time.
Oh, I know we haven't watched that one, but the 2 episodes after this one in Strange New Worlds is a musical episode.
Oh God.
And
Now I'm getting flashbacks of the Power Rangers musical episode where Tommy and Kimberly had to sing all their lines.
Oh God.
Oh, that was horrible.
but one of the things at the very end, the I don't want to spoil anything, but the big grand finale song, one of the lines is talking about our mission, our prime directive, and um and Spock like quickly adds, not exactly. Because they're talking about like the song or like stopping the singing is part of their our mission, our prime directive. That's not what that means. And
Okay,
also
okay.
another line in there was when it's all said and done, I'm gonna miss the singing, and Spock, as they're saying, I'll miss the singing. He's like, I'm not gonna miss the singing.
Okay. Okay. I hate musicals, but I need to see those episodes only for the reason I need to see Spock sing.
Yes, I will send it. It is freaking awesome. I have the entire soundtrack.
So, what
You're
I
not.
want to know.
Okay.
So, the actors who played like, I guess the 3D versions.
Those are the
Mhm.
same people,
Those
from what
are
I
the voice
understand.
actors.
So they're the voice actors. So they're the same
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, they're the same
God damn,
people.
do they look like their characters?
Yeah,
It didn't take much.
Except Boimler is so freaking tall. Like, compared to like when you see him in the cartoon, he's not that tall. Like, he and Mariner's only a little bit shorter than him. I mean, she's like up to his chest.
Yeah, damn.
He's so freaking tall compared to them.
So, okay, due to one line that Boimler said,
Mm-hmm.
um, okay, first of all, what's his last name, or is Boimler his last name?
His
Bradward
name
Boimler is his full
Bradward.
name.
Oh, Bradler. Okay,
Bradward Boimler.
okay.
Like
Yeah,
Squidward,
Okay.
but Brad.
Bradward is his first name.
Yeah, that's
I like saying Boimler better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why everybody calls him Boimler, just like everybody calls her Mariner.
Now, what I want to know is due to like one line he said, when he said, "Wow, you look so realistic." Do they know that they're I don't want to say cartoons, but like 2D
No,
characters?
no. Although no, like that's not what he meant. He meant as in compared to, like a a holodeck type thing.
Ah,
But also he but also that was another one of those nudging the fourth wall.
Mhm.
ah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, the lower decks humor definitely carries over into this episode.
yeah,
It walks around behind Mariner and Boimler the entire episode.
it really does.
It's like if they're not in the room, it might pop up, but I think it's mostly probably Strange New Worlds sort of dialogue. But when those two are in the room at any point, you're going to get lower decks humor in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
Um, but let's see.
I also think that this episode was one of those like time travel episodes where like I don't know, sorry, there's like so many time travel paradox things. Which one is it? Like I think like Boimler going back in time, what was it like meant to happen?
It's a closed
Because
loop.
yeah, because it's like the Romulans. No, not the Romulans. Fuck, what are they?
The
Orion.
Orions.
Orion. Sorry, the Orions. Like we're gonna steal that portal anyway and take it, but thanks to him, they brought it back.
Yeah.
So that's how they're able to find it on the planet. Time travel's confusing.
Yeah, don't try
It,
to think about it too hard. I hate temporal mechanics.
yeah. I love temporal mechanics because it's such a headache.
That was more a DS9 reference.
I know. I know.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, but see. I would.
I love the end where they're like, I know we're jumping around everywhere, but I love the end where they're cartoons and they're like, I feel so weird. What's in this? Oh, it's an Orion. It's an Orion hurricane with actual Orion stuff because the Orion scientists gave it to us. Like, my arm does not normally do this. It's like my eyes feel bigger. Are my eyes bigger? It all feels so two-dimensional. What the fuck was in this?
God, I need some of that.
Yeah, and I'm kind of interested in the thought about, okay, Boimler liking Spock completely makes sense. Like him fanboying over Spock. But I would think like somebody like Mariner would be more interested in somebody who was more active. Like Uhura was always, she's a translator, she's got that, but she was, from what I understand, she wasn't that active.
Well, no, but at the same time, I mean, fourth wall breaking here.
Oh yeah, I know. From an out of universe reasoning, it makes perfect sense for her to be interested in Uhura. But like from an in universe thing, it seems like she would be more interested in.
If you look in universe at Beckett Mariner's character, she is a lot smarter than she plays off. She is a lot more invested.
I'm not calling her stupid or anything, but just like
no. I'm saying than she plays off.
Okay.
She likes to pretend that she doesn't care about things, that she's just like, oh, let's just do whatever. But at the same time, she also is a bit of a geek, just like the rest of them. She just doesn't like to admit it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like her proclivities go towards the swashbuckling nature of things.
Yes and no. She likes to put on that persona, but she also does have other interests. Like she ran to, the whole historical, the museum. She was just as excited, but she's like, no, I wasn't. Shut up. Don't lie. So she does have that kind of characteristic. And so a character like Uhura, who she was not quite as active, but none of the female characters really were in the original.
Yeah, because
original
series was very good at it hit racism pretty hard, but it was less good at dealing with.
Well, I mean, they still had a lot of the female characters were still given serious roles and stuff.
Oh, I'm not saying that. But yeah, it was better at striking at racism than it was at that. Not to say that they never did that, but that it was more powerful in its racism messaging than it was in its.
Keep in mind, they can only push so far.
Oh yeah. Oh no. I'm not criticizing the people. I'm saying the series is of its time.
Yeah.
And they handled some things much more potently than they handled, they were able to handle other things.
Yeah, but she was still on a lot of away missions. She was,
Yeah, I just never got a swashbuckling sort of idea from her, and but
also keep in mind there is the TOS, and I don't mean those old times. I mean TOS era Uhura, but also there's this Uhura, which is also part of that same character.
The and what Uhura? The
Strange New World Uhura.
Okay, so
still part of of the original series Uhura. Yeah. She's still the same character, just evolving. And you see her a little earlier on, but in this, she's serious, but she also has had a lot of adventures through this series.
Okay, well, yeah, just what my image of Uhura and my image of Mariner, it's like, no, these two aren't very similar in terms of their core sort of what they do. But
Honestly, my headcanon is that Uhura is an elf.
is a what?
An elf.
An elf? Okay.
She has
Make me some toys, elf.
no. I mean like Lord of the Rings drow type elf.
Oh.
She's she has that musical inclination. She's got the language abilities. She's actually rather agile.
Yeah, this is the only episode of
So,
Strange New Worlds I've seen, so I don't have any
Yeah,
pins
well, I mean,
on
also
how
in
she
the
is in
original
Strange New
series,
Worlds. I'm going off of what I know from
yeah.
what I've seen from TOS.
But also in TOS, she was, you know, they most of the characters weren't swashbucklers. It was all, Kirk was the swashbuckler
Yeah.
in
Like
the original.
if like Kirk had been on the ship at some point, then and Mariner ran into Kirk, she would lose it. Like I
Oh,
understand
definitely.
her losing it seeing Kirk, and I understand Boimler losing it seeing Spock. Like that makes sense.
But
Those two.
also Uhura would does sort of make sense as as a little, a hero for her because Uhura isn't the overall, she's not the just straight up nerdy type that the other ones are. She's not a sciencey science officer type. Although she isn't brilliant, in the TOS era especially, she was a lot more out there. Like she was always singing and dancing and just, in her
Yeah,
free
because her
time.
Nichols was actually a really good singer. And she was actually
Yeah.
supposed to sing in one of the movies, but they cut it and redubbed it over with something else, which was
Ugh.
really
those
crappy.
bastards.
Oh yeah, it's great. Like, but she was always singing in the original series and always like very. She was a very free spirit, which I think somebody like Mariner would embrace. If and as far as original series characters go, it would she would probably be the one she would fangirl over most from that ship
From that ship and that era,
and that era. Yeah.
because if Kirk was on that ship at some point, forget it. Like that seems
Well,
like that would be her. That
I think yeah, Kirk and Uhura would be the top two for her. Like,
just because I think she fancies herself if she ever cared enough to move up the ranks and get to captain, because she just kind of wants to jump from where she is to captain. She doesn't want to go through those middle ranks because they're boring. But like if she were a captain, she would be a very much a Kirk, and Boimler
yeah.
would be more a Picard.
Yes.
So, I'm guessing the captain dies
No.
with
Well,
how Boimler was acting.
not exactly. No. You see, in the episode of the original series called The Menagerie, in order to actually be able to air the pilot, they used it as a flashback to because he was in a wheelchair, paraplegic, quadriplegic, couldn't move. He actually had to. He was basically worse off than he basically was a cross between Stephen Hawking's and a Dalek.
Yeah, and he had to communicate with like lights
Yeah, he had
or
a
beeps or something like that.
one beep for yes, two beeps for no, and that was his communication. So in the the pilot's episode was called The Cage. In the pilot episode, they met up with a race of telepaths that were able to manifest your greatest desire so that it felt so real, but it was still in your head. So they finally managed to escape there, and that planet and that entire system was off limits. But because of how his current condition was, Spock decided to take him there. But because it was a restricted area and stuff, Spock ended up being
Court-martialed.
court-martialed for it.
Hmm.
And so the whole episode is kind of a mix of flashbacks from the pilot episode and Spock's court-martial.
Okay.
And then it ended up with him going to Pike going to the planet and being able to live out the rest of his life, able to walk and looking normal again because he's basically living in his head.
I mean, you would think with all their advanced technology, they would at least make a device where he could talk.
You would think, but unfortunately, first of all, it was the 60s. Second of all, it was a plot device. And I mean, even in the Deep Space Nine, there was a character who had to be in a wheelchair.
Wasn't that because the environmental controls?
Yeah, she was basically a reverse of the
So there's heavy worlders where their gravity they're used to is much heavier than ours, and then there's sort of more towards the light world thing, and she was in the light world thing, so they had to whenever she wanted to leave her room was set up to be low gravity, so she could be in her normal gravity.
Only a little bit. She would do it, and for her it was like slipping into a hot bath. You know, like.
But she could do that. She could be in her normal gravity in her own room. But anytime she wanted to leave that sort of environment, she had to get into a wheelchair so that she could actually physically move around because she couldn't support her own weight that way.
They did give her like mechanical leg braces and stuff, but she ended up tripping over something and her legs wouldn't stop twitching and she was stuck on the floor and she was so upset and embarrassed being caught like that because she couldn't get back up. So they have had you know, disabled characters in this within the series, like various series.
Let's see. Yeah, Spock smiling is weird.
Oh yeah, that's like
that was creepy.
Yeah, that's I mean, I did think that was kind of a questionable direction, although it did make sense in a way because they did have a bit of a will they won't they for a while while he there were quite a few episodes between him and his fiance, and then not fiance because on again off again type thing, but then she called it off, and so there's Chapel and he ended up hooking up.
Yeah, it sounded like he was experimenting with emotions because of her, and then they found out later that no, the one history remembers is not the one with emotions. So, like, Yeah, that made it really awkward for them.
Yeah, because she realized, okay, so this is not gonna last at all.
Yeah, history does not record this.
Yeah.
You know, Boimler wasn't exactly honest with them when they
Why?
asked him what he was doing before the portal sucked him in. He forgot to mention he was saying, "Live long and prosper." I
Yeah,
wanted to just say that and just Spock look at him going, "What?"
no, because live long and prosper is a Vulcan greeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
It's not.
it's also a Vulcan goodbye, but that it's also a
It's like
but
aloha.
you answer it with peace and long life.
Yeah, but so like saying live long and prosper, it wouldn't be that weird to them. Like it wouldn't be what?
No, I meant as in he was
Mocking Spock,
yeah. Well, not mocking because he was
mimicking.
mimicking, yeah.
I was doing my best Spock impression, which clearly did not have enough laughing.
But
And it was funny. It's like, oh yeah, this is totally. We know you're a time traveler. Like, oh thank God.
Yeah.
yeah, I love that one in the scene where he's like, I can track the Orions. Well, well, you can't be messing with. Well, I could do it, and you just
What if you
not
just don't
look.
look?
And they're
You can't
like,
just
I
not
don't
look,
know. And then the next
can
scene, it just
you?
smash cuts to they're over
Then
there not looking, and he's underneath the console wibbling with the stuff, and it's like, oh, found it.
and then it's like, hey, Future Boy did it. It might be a minute. He's all tangled up. And and when it's like no more from you, and it's like, can you tell Captain Pike I can hear you? Oh, I thought the distance of the room might have but it's funny that they got to meet Tendy's great grandmother.
That was cute.
Like, oh yeah, Astra. How'd you know my great grandmother's name? Ah, we met her.
Oh, let's see. Is there anything else?
The
Oh,
Hmm.
the joke about the time machine just having like they're trying so long to figure out what it said on the time machine, and it just says time machine.
Yeah, this is a time machine.
I mean, would have been great to know sooner. You know, just saying. I love that. Oh, they don't know about Q yet. They will though.
Well, then they said something
They
about
met,
I think they said something about Trelawney. It's like no, they have we're
yeah.
doing more about Trelawney sort of thing at this point.
Well, Tree Lane
Trelawney,
is
yeah, or
Tree Lane is basically a Q.
yeah,
Although my canon is he's Q Junior because there was the ending where his parents yelled at him at the end of Squire of Gothos.
yeah.
So it's basically Q Junior. I mean, I could see that before he goes to um get straightened out by Aunt Kathy. Besides, in that episode, he did say
Ah.
Kirk might have been a lowly human, but at least he had pizzazz. As if so, he was he was the Squire of Gothos Trelane, and it's like, yeah, you're done meddling. I'm gonna send you to your Aunt Kathy to straighten you out.
But yeah, Trelane, not Trelawney. I was thinking of a
Harry Potter.
no. I think that Squire Trelawney is a Treasure Island character. I think.
Oh yeah. Also, she's the divination professor in
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, Treasure Island.
Yeah, I remember Muppet Treasure Island. He was played by Gonzo. I mean, Fozzie.
But yeah,
That
but yeah.
was a good movie, okay?
Oh no, that's great. The Muppets did some fantastic,
Day
fantastic
for adventure on
adaptations.
the big blue wet thing.
I mean, come on, Muppet Christmas Carol. Like
Yeah.
it's incredibly faithful to the original.
I
Like
think I actually saw it
more than you
recently.
would expect for a Muppet movie.
Muppet Treasure Island though was amazing, and it has Tim Curry as Long John Silver. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah. Muppet
So,
Christmas Carol
who
is definitely
is
my favorite Christmas Carol.
who is the old chick who is apparently thousands of years old?
Oh, she is their chief engineer. She actually it's funny because she's a member of a race who hid within humanity, basically Highlander, but without killing each other. You know,
Oh,
her race is immortal, so they traveled to other planets and lived amongst their races. That she lived on Earth for for 1,000 years, and actually, when Laan traveled back in time with Kirk, she actually met that lady's past self, like in the past.
It's a bit of a Guinan situation.
Basically, yeah, kind of a Guinan situation.
oh. Huh.
Actually, it could be a Guinan. I don't know. Wait, I can't remember what her race was now.
Is it Elorian or?
Um, I I don't remember. That's why I'm saying.
Yeah, I was giving the name of the
I know
race.
what
Maybe that would spark something.
I know Guinan's race is Alorian,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I was just giving you a spark, and maybe that would trigger something. But
I know I know they're called Alorians, but I just can't remember what her.
essentially, Guinan had a similar situation happen
Yeah.
with her.
Oh yeah.
They went back to the past and
Yeah.
found her in the past, and then
I remember.
no, I was talking for
Oh.
Madrock.
Okay. I
But
love it. She's like,
They ended up in the
staring.
Wild West.
I thought it was San Francisco.
Yeah, but Wild West style.
Yeah, that era, the sort of wild
Oh no, she's
late
Lanthanite.
1800s.
She's Lanthanite.
Lanthanite. Okay.
The even though Pelia looks human, she is a Lanthanite, a race Spock describes as living on Earth among other humans undetected until the 22nd century.
Yeah. But
I
yeah.
love how she was like, "Stop tearing up my ship."
No, they're not the same species.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting engineer, an Elorian engineer.
Yeah.
Kind of goes away from what their natural talents tend to be, but who's to say they couldn't? They listen long enough, they figure out how to engineer. um, but see what else was there. I think we covered most of it. It was a fun episode. It wasn't. It
Oh
wasn't.
yeah.
It wasn't
A
just knock your
reference-
socks off like, oh no, this is the best episode I've ever seen in my life. But
Yeah,
it was
fine.
really it was good. It was good. It was a
There wasn't enough DS9 references for you.
look. We got Bell Riots. At least we got something. DS9 gets so little. Like everybody kind of forgets it's there.
But there was another thing, that phrase that he used. That was used on the poster was actually a phrase that Una number one was that's what got her interested in Starfleet. She's a member of a race known as Illyrians who are augments. In fact, they are, it is part of their culture to augment, but, genetic engineering is illegal and augmentation is illegal, as we know from DS9, actually.
Yep.
But her race naturally are augments, and she was, when it was found out that she was an augment, she was arrested and put
Put
on
to
trial
death.
for lying about, lying on her application and joining Starfleet, even though
Well, is it lying if she didn't know?
no, she knew. It's
Okay,
her
okay,
it's her culture.
okay.
She was augmented as a child. It's part of her culture, the same way, well, not the same way, because technically Julian was just, his parents did it because he was a retard. No, he was
Mean.
slow and he was dumb, so his parents augmented him to make him smarter and better because they didn't want a special needs kid. Uh, and Dex can corroborate that.
Yeah, Bashir had some difficulties early in life, and they took him to a place, and he didn't know they were doing augment. They were augmenting him at the time because he was too young to understand what was going on. But when he came out of there, like he was last in his class, is sort of struggling, and then when he came out, he's brilliant. He's got ridiculous reflexes and just superhuman, and almost like he got a big upgrade. And then
Good for
he
him.
didn't know he'd been augmented when he applied, so they kind of,
Yeah.
there's a whole episode or two of that where they're going through, he manages to escape being thrown out of Starfleet, but
Because his dad takes the blame for
yeah,
it.
I didn't want to get into too much weeds, but yeah, basically, yeah, she's just like, they work out something, and he gets to stay in Starfleet.
Yeah.
Um,
But so that's so what happened with Una was she was put on trial, and another Alarian, what an old friend of hers who is a lawyer advocating for their people, um, takes her case as kind of a what do you call it, like, to open doorways to try to gain rights for their people, because their people are basically ostracized because their entire people are illegal because of their cultural issues. And it's kind of like how you know there are a lot of cultural similarities now, like nowadays too, where it's a nice little allegory. But that phrase that I can't remember, but it's something ad astrum.
mhm.
The Latin phrase was one that she toted as kind of a mantra almost. And so the fact that they put that on the poster just like warmed her heart.
Aww.
Because it's like they used that phrase.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we've squeezed this one just about as dry as we can.
Let me see. Let me see. Yeah, no more. Yep, I squeezed it all out. Yep.
Do we have anything else? Anybody?
Let me think. Live long and prosper.
Doc, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
No, I mean,
Tricked you.
Dude, I'm not good. How dare you accuse me of being good?
Okay.
I find that offensive.
Well, I find that at the end of the episode. See ya.